Have you ever wondered why some of the most devoted, God-fearing people struggle with money? Why does Allah, the most merciful, allow His righteous servants to go through financial hardship? You might have seen wealthy people living in comfort, while sincere believers work tirelessly, yet still face difficulties in earning a livelihood. It may seem unfair, but what if I told you that these struggles are not a sign of Allah's anger, but instead a test, a purification, and a way to raise one's status in the sight of Allah? We often think that financial success means Allah is pleased with someone. But is that really true? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ himself live a life of simplicity, often going hungry for days? In this video, we will uncover 5 deep and powerful reasons why Allah's chosen ones are broke and struggling financially. Each reason will give you a new perspective on wealth, hardship, and Allah's wisdom. And let me warn you, by the time we reach the last reason, your entire understanding of financial struggles will change forever. So stay with me, because what you're about to learn might just be the answer you've been searching for. Number 1. A test of faith and patience. One of the greatest trials a believer can face is financial hardship. But before you think it is a punishment, remember, Allah tests those He loves. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Indeed, the people who face the most severe trials are the prophets, then those nearest to them in righteousness, then those nearest to them." This means that the closer someone is to Allah, the more they are tested. And what is the purpose of a test? To reveal the strength of one's faith. Wealth and comfort can make faith easy, but true belief is tested when times are hard. Some people only worship Allah when life is going well, but the true believer remains steadfast, whether in ease or in difficulty. Look at the story of Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam. He was once a man of great wealth, blessed with health and family. Then, in an instant, he lost everything. His wealth disappeared, his health deteriorated, and even his loved ones turned away. Yet despite his suffering, he never questioned Allah's wisdom. He did not complain. Instead, he turned to Allah with gratitude and patience. Allah reminds us in the Quran, "Do people think that they will be left to say, 'We believe,' and they will not be tested?" Surah Al-Ankabut 29:2. Every believer will face trials, and one of the hardest is financial difficulty. It is in these moments that Allah watches. Will you stay patient, or will you allow doubt to take over? Hardship is not meant to break you. It is meant to purify you, strengthen you, and elevate you. It is a chance to prove that your faith is not dependent on wealth or comfort, but on your trust in Allah alone. So, when faced with financial struggles, remember, this is your test. Will you pass it with patience? Number 2. Purification from sins. Every hardship a believer faces is not wasted. It serves a purpose. It cleanses, purifies, and erases sins in ways we cannot see. The Prophet ﷺ said, "No fatigue, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick of a thorn, but that Allah expiates some of his sins for it." Now think about that for a moment. If something as small as a thorn pricking your skin wipes away sins, then what about the trials of financial struggle? What about the nights spent in worry, the days of uncertainty, the stress of making ends meet? These difficulties are not punishments. They are a divine cleansing. They are Allah's way of purifying His chosen ones from sins, preparing them for something greater, both in this world and in the hereafter. Many of the closest servants of Allah are not rich in material wealth, but they are rich in something far greater: purity of the soul. Their sins are being erased through their struggles, their burdens are being lifted, and their records are being cleansed. They may sleep without knowing where their next meal will come from, but their hearts rest in peace, knowing that Allah has not abandoned them. They wake up not with complaints, but with gratitude. Their struggles today are securing ease for them in the hereafter, where they will never face hardship again. So the next time you find yourself struggling, remind yourself, every difficulty is removing a sin. Every hardship is making your scale of deeds lighter. Every moment of patience is bringing you closer to Allah's mercy. What seems like a burden in this life may be the very thing that saves you in the next. Number 3. Protection from arrogance and distractions. Wealth is not always a blessing. For some, it brings ease, but for many, it becomes a test, one that leads to arrogance, heedlessness, and a false sense of security. Allah warns us in the Quran, And do not extend your eyes toward that by which we have given enjoyment to some categories of them, disbelievers. For it is but the splendor of worldly life by which we test them. But the provision of your Lord is better and more enduring. Surah Taha 20, 131. Think about that. The wealth that many chase after is actually a test. Some people become so consumed by their money that they forget the one who gave it to them. They start believing they are self-sufficient, that they no longer need Allah. But Allah, in His wisdom, protects His chosen servants from this trap. He gives them just enough to live, but not so much that they become arrogant or distracted. Their financial hardship is not a curse, it is a shield, guarding them from the dangers of excessive wealth. Look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He had the power to ask for mountains of gold, yet he chose a life of simplicity. His home was small, his meals were simple, and he often went to bed hungry. Not because he couldn't have more, but because he understood that true wealth is in the heart, not in the hands. So, if Allah has withheld great riches from you, do not see it as a misfortune. Perhaps He loves you too much to let wealth corrupt your soul. Perhaps He is protecting you from a life of heedlessness and ensuring that your heart remains connected to Him. Because in the end, what is better? Temporary riches that distract you from Allah, or a humble life that keeps you close to Him? Number 4. Training for reliance on Allah, tawakkul. When a person has nothing, they turn to Allah for everything. Financial struggles force a believer to develop a deep and unwavering reliance on Allah, true tawakkul. It is easy to trust Allah when life is comfortable, but real faith is tested when everything seems uncertain. Allah reminds us in the Quran, "And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out, and He will provide for him from where he does not expect. And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him." Surah At-Talaq 65:2-3. Think about this promise. Allah does not say that He might provide, He says He will provide. But this provision comes to those who place their trust in Him completely. You may have seen people who struggle financially yet remain peaceful and content. They do not complain, they do not despair. They continue praying, making dua, and relying on Allah with full certainty that He will take care of them. This is true wealth, not in possessions, but in the heart. Some of the most honored people in the sight of Allah are not the ones with large bank accounts, but the ones whose hearts are rich with trust in Him. They know that sustenance is not in their hands, but in the hands of Allah. And one thing is certain, Allah never leaves His true servants in hardship forever. Every difficulty has an end. Every struggle is followed by relief. Tawakkul does not just bring patience, it brings peace. If you are struggling today, remind yourself, Allah is watching. He is testing your trust. And when the time is right, His help will come from places you never expected. Number 5. A higher reward awaits. If a believer's hardship is great, then their reward will be even greater. Allah never allows a single moment of suffering to go unrewarded. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Indeed, with greater rewards come greater trials." And indeed, when Allah loves a people, He tests them. Think about this. Trials are not a sign of Allah's anger, they are a sign of His love. Those whom He tests the most are often the ones He holds closest. This dunya is temporary. The wealth, the status, the possessions, all of it will disappear. No matter how much a person owns, they will one day leave it all behind. But Jannah is forever. Allah reminds us in the Quran, "And you prefer the worldly life, while the hereafter is better and more enduring." What if your struggles today mean an everlasting kingdom in Jannah? What if the patience you show in poverty today earns you palaces, rivers, and gardens in paradise where you will never experience hardship again? Allah has promised, indeed, the patient will be given their reward without account. Surah Zumar 39:10. No limit, no measure, only endless blessings from the most generous. The difficulties of this world are temporary, but the rewards of Allah are eternal. Every sacrifice, every tear, every moment of patience is being recorded, preparing a reward that will make every struggle worth it. So when you face hardship, remind yourself, you are not suffering in vain. You are being prepared for something far greater than this world could ever offer. So why are Allah's chosen ones often broke and struggling financially? Because their faith is being tested. Because their sins are being erased. Because Allah is protecting them from arrogance. Because they are being trained to rely on Allah. because their reward in the hereafter will be immeasurable. Now, ask yourself, is it really a hardship or is it a hidden blessing? Do not be deceived by wealth. True success is not measured by money, but by faith. The richest people in the eyes of Allah are not those with overflowing wealth, but those with unshakable trust in Him. Every struggle has a purpose. Every hardship carries wisdom, and every sacrifice for the sake of Allah will be rewarded beyond imagination. May Allah grant us patience, wisdom, and success, not just in this dunya, but in the akhirah where it truly matters. Ameen.